त्वदीयाः दयातरङ्गानुचराः कटाक्षाः श्रोत्रेषु पुंसाम् अमृतं क्षरन्तीं सरस्वतीं संश्रुतकामधेनुम्. A very good morning to the delegates here. Thank you. It gives me immense pleasure to be at a platform where people are honored for their sincerity, hard work, and intelligence. First of all, I would like to thank the quorum for having been benevolent enough to invite me here to speak. Apappo Tamil pesuven and I'm sure there are delegates from Karnataka as well. So Kannadadallu ಕೆಲವು ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. At the same time, a few phrases in Malayalam, as long as people who know Malayalam are not here. So, and then a few phrases in Telugu as well, because our country is a beautiful country of various languages, and in the current era, we need to learn to respect our mother tongue as much as we respect somebody else's mother tongue. So, that's the idea. And at the outset, again, I would like to thank the quorum for having invited me and having been so hospitable. Incidentally, we have this phrase that's very commonly used these days, Atithi Devo Bhava, which means treat your guests as God. This is the translation that's been flowing in and time out. But the beauty lies in the very word Atithi. Tithi is a word that we commonly use. People ask, Inigena Tithi. What's the Tithi today? Which means, what is the day today? Whether it is Amavasya, whether it is Paurnima, or whether it is Ashtami, Navami, and so on. This is Tithi. So you know the day. So if at all, we are very merciful enough in welcoming people to our houses, even if they don't inform the Tithi on which they are coming, they are called a Tithi. You should not inform that person that you're coming. But today we are living in an era where we have to call that person, take an appointment, tell, okay, I'm coming, and the person will ask a survey of questions. What are you planning to eat? How much do you eat? And whether you will bring it for me. So finally we'll end up saying that, okay, don't worry, you don't have to cook anything for me, I'm going to get it for you. So ultimately we are called Atithis, but we become Tithis. But the beauty lies in the very fact that the Atithyam, the concept of hospitality from LUGI, has been very good. And as guests, we all enjoy as much as what the hosts enjoy. So thanks for that. The topic that we have chosen for the day is very much based on the concept and the tagline that you have had. Rejuvenate, learning is earning. இதில் சில வார்த்தைகள் வந்து தமிழில் சொன்னால் பெட்டர். ஏன்னா இங்கிலீஷில் English is a beautiful language, but at times you also find it very cynical because you don't pronounce it the way you write. That's the first thing. Second thing, the grammatical rules are really confusing and complex. It's not simple. நம்ம வந்து ஆப்பிள் அப்படின்னா APPLE ஆப்பிள். A is a vowel. AEIOU. வவல்ல ஆரம்பிக்கக்கூடிய வார்த்தைகளுக்கு முன்னாடி an indefinite article an போடணுங்கிறது ரென் அண்ட் மார்ட்டின்னு ரெண்டு மகாத்மாக்கள் அந்த காலத்தில் ரூல் எழுதி வச்சுட்டு போயிருக்கா. So they have said you'll have to add an before such words. So give me an apple a day keeps a doctor away, so on and so forth. Umbrella, this is an umbrella, please take the umbrella, because umbrella starts with U, so you say an umbrella. But the beauty is, university, it starts with U. What do you say? A or an? The option is just two. You don't need Aravind Swami to ask this. So what is that you're going to choose between A and an? A. Why? It starts with U. It starts with a vowel, right? Very good. The pronunciation is not that of you. See, umbrella அப்படின்னா university தானே சொல்லணும். You start with university, which means you start with Y. Y is a consonant. So English states, then you will have to use A. So the beauty of English lies in it being very complex and at times being very illogical. அதனால நம்ம இந்தியன் லாங்குவேஜஸை யூஸ் பண்ணால் is much much better. At the same time, we also need to acknowledge that this world is getting really unified. Maybe ஒரு 200 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி you had Tamil people concentrating in and around Tamil Nadu. You barely had somebody in Manipur, you barely had somebody in Arunachal Pradesh, a Tamil person speaking. But today, with whatever little travel experience I have, I walk by in Melbourne after my lecture, and Melbourne la vandu some person tells me, the person whoever hosted me, he takes me along the road and he shows me one building. The building looks good, fairly decent, maintained well. He tells, look at this building, sir, with all that delight, you know, articulation is the key of public speaking. So he said, look at this building, sir. So I looked at the building, it was fine, it was good. Then I asked, what is something special about this building? He said, it's 50 years old, one of the oldest buildings in our country. I thought my grandmother's house is 100 years old. So in India, the word 100 and 1000 is just used like this. You go to any remote village in Tamil Nadu on the banks of Kaveri, the priest in that temple will casually say, idu 2500 varsham. You know, most countries did not exist 200 years before. And we are talking about 2500 years. That's where we need to understand, recognize and acknowledge that as a country, see, the word India is a very new word, but as such, when I take India, in and around we take Bangladesh, Pakistan, parts of Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, and to some extent Sri Lanka. This entire region is a very ancient region of an ancient civilization. So literature becomes our core. Literature is our key. Literature is our asset. Literature is our national treasure. Just to give you a small glimpse of what literature is, 1000 years back we had the Arabic scholar coming from Saudi Arabia called Al-Biruni. அவர் முழு இந்தியாவில் சஞ்சாரம் பண்ணி இண்டிகான்னு 2 புஸ்தகங்கள் எழுதியிருக்கார். That's in Arabic, that's been translated to English. He tells, look at me in a country where people outside their houses, திண்ணை பேச்சுன்னு பேரு, நீங்கள் அந்த காலத்துலலாம் heritage house will have a mittam tavaram and it will have a கூடம் and will have a திண்ணை outside. You know, in civil engineering, திண்ணை is an architectural marvel. Why? Because you have got 2 raised elevated platforms outside the house. வீட்டுக்கு வெளியில 2 platform இருக்கு. So if somebody comes, you can make them sit there, talk with them there and send them off. You don't have to bring them inside the house at all. Isn't this an architectural marvel? See, somebody comes inside your house, you'll be confused as to how to entertain this person. Imagine you've got a platform outside the house, you don't have to get that person inside at all. So this is an architectural marvel come from some great mortal. Nevertheless, திண்ணை பேச்சுன்னு இருக்கு. திண்ணை பேச்சுன்னா பொதுவா ரொம்ப வம்பு, controversy, you know, what he was wearing, what she was wearing, you know, what he said. This is called திண்ணை பேச்சு. But this Al-Biruni states 1000 years back, he tells, in India, he calls it Hindu region. The Hindu is around the Indus region, so he comes along till Madhya Pradesh and he tells, வீட்டு வாசல்ல திண்ணை பேச்சு is so scientific. See, people were talking about atoms outside their house. Imagine the treasure that we have as a country. It's unimaginable. So there, in my speech, I need to mention about this beautiful state, Kerala, because this is our hosting state. Just above Ernakulam, you go a few kilometers, you find the airport area. You go further northwards, you find this very ancient town called Thrissur. And you go east of Thrissur, you find a very well-known, renowned, small but yet bustling temple town called as Guruvayur. And in 1587, around 400 years back, there was a Sanskrit poet called as Narayana Bhattadri. He tells where he is from. Bhukhande Kerala ke Sarita Nihanilam Uttare Naivanava Sampada Vyutamatne Punaruparinava Gramanamni Swadhamni. I come from the northern banks of a river called Bharadapura near Tirunavai, which is on the way to Kuttipuram. He tells all this. He composes a beautiful work in Sanskrit with 1034 verses, 1034 verses. And at the end of it, the last verses, don't worry if you don't understand the meaning. My aim is to bring the crux of the material and not to literally translate what is there word to word. Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam vishwanatha kshamethaha stotram chaitat sahastrottaram adhikataram tvatprasada abhibhuyat dvedha narayaniyam shrutishu cha janusha stutyata varnanena svitam leelaavataraihi iha miha kurutam ayuhu arogya saukhyam. So he tells, what is the benefit? See, as people who are carrying the concept of insurance forward, you'll know how to convince your client with the concept of benefit. See, people generally ask, what is the benefit of this? I do this, I pay. Well, that's a simple process. What do I get in return? So he tells, you read this work, you will get Ayuhu Arogya Saukhyam. Ayuhu, you will have a long lifetime. You will be earning more pension than the salary that you've earned. So Ayuhu Arogya Saukhyam. So all that you will be suffering is from good health and nothing else. So you will be suffering from good health, Arogya Saukhyam. Ayuhu, you will have a long lifetime. Even you don't have to look at your palms to check how long or how many millimeters or centimeters is that Ayu Rekha. You'll be very hale and healthy. That's the concept that he's trying to bring. So as a person who has written, he tries to sell his concept. But the beauty lies in the word Ayuhu Arogya Saukhyam. See, in certain languages, especially in Sanskrit, every letter has a digit. It has got a number assigned. A, U, Ra, Ro, Gya, Saukhyam. Every letter has a number. For example, if you take Ya, Ra, La, Va, Ra is 2, Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma is 5. So he tells Ayuhu, he takes the number for every letter. He multiplies it with the units place, tens place, hundreds place, thousands place, and arrives at a number which is like 17,10,348. That's the number. And you apply it in the software, you will get to know the day on which the day on which he completed that work. So it corresponds to 27th November 1587. So in this word, which means you will be blessed with good health, he has also coded what is the date on which he has completed. So you've got various such things happening in our country. You've got the concept of Pythagoras theorem, which is about the square of the hypotenuse being the sum of the squares of the other two sides in a right angle triangle, brought out in a very beautiful fashion 750 years before by a person called Vedanta Deshika. So the concept lies in us appreciating and at least understanding that we belong to a very, very, very rich country. See, I'm sure when most of you, when you travel abroad or when I travel abroad, at certain instances I find, this way our country is lagging. You know, when you look at the roads in certain countries, you feel, oh my goodness, why can't our country be as good as this? When people follow traffic rules, you think, okay, why can't people follow in our country? When people don't honk, you're there for 2 months in US, you will never hear the honk sound, and here all that you hear is the honk sound, and that is when you start repenting, why can't our country be like this? Which is fair. This is how we want our country to be. Well, in certain areas like infrastructure, pollution, smog, this and that, we are lagging. We need lots of improvement. But in terms of a civilization, in terms of literature that our country is blessed with, there's nothing that can match. I can tell you with fullest of the confidence. While I was there in Indonesia, after 2 days of lectures, at my place, the driver drove me. He said, you're always delivering lectures. I want to take you around Jakarta. And he did not know the language in which I spoke. Neither did I know the language in which he spoke. But we still spoke with each other. He spoke in a language called Bhasa. And I spoke in Tamil, I spoke in Hindi. You know, India as being many language country. I tried speaking in every other language. But the beauty was he understood what I said. So he took me on the roads, and then he took me to the largest mall in Jakarta. And he said, sir, name? I was like, I am Dushyanth. No, look at the mall's name. It was written Ayodhya Mall. And he showed me another mall. It was written Sita Mall. And he went down off his car and he performed his namaz. He came back and I said, I'm so happy that you're following the principles. I'm so happy. What's your name? I didn't know his name. He said, my name is Aditya. And that's when I realized he knew much more in Ramayana than what I knew. So that's when I thought, well, he was like talking about Jambavan, he was talking about characters. I was like, how did you know all this? He tells, my grandmother used to tell me all this. So our country's stories, our country's literature has percolated everywhere. தமிழ்ல உங்களுக்கு சொல்லணும்னா, திருப்பாவை ஐயைந்துமைந்தும் அறியாத மானிடரை வையம் சுமப்பதும் வம்பு என்பது திருப்பாவையின் சாற்றுமுறை பாசுரம். ஆண்டாள் கடைசி 2 பாசுரங்கள், சிற்றஞ்சிறுகாலே வந்துன்னை சேவித்து உன் பொத்தாமலரடியே போற்றும் பொருள்கேளாய் பெற்றம்மை துண்ணும் குலத்தில் பிறந்து நீ குற்றேவல் எங்களை கொள்ளாமல் போகாது. This is 29. 30th is வங்கக்கடல் கடைந்த மாதவனை கேசவனை திங்கள் திருமுகத்து சேரிழையார் சென்றிரைஞ்சி அங்கு அப்பறை கொண்ட வாற்றை அணிபுதுவை பைங்கமல தந்திரியில் பட்டர்பிரான் கோதை சொன்ன. These are the 2 pasurams in Tamil. She sings in a small town of Srivilliputtur, which is more famous for the Palkova than the Gopuram. Now, she sings it years back, millenniums back, and today in Thailand, whoever is the next king, the king's surname is Raman in Thailand, and when the king is coronated, Pattabhishegam nadakkumbodhu inda 2 pasurangal solli da anga saattumura. Thailand la, whether in our Thailand we follow that or not, in that Thailand there is a concept. See, the culture has percolated. Why am I talking about culture? Why am I talking about literature? Because it's high time that as Indians we realize how much our ancestors have worked hard. See, the worst part is we as Indians are never good at marketing. You go to the US, they would have just made a small cookie. Very simple to make. You put the batter, that will be a ready-made batter. You bake that and you give. The person who eats will say, wonderful, too tasty. You know, the expressions will go, your mouth will go like this, wonderful, tasty. And in our country, my grandmother will be making something called Purulanga Urundai, which will take 2 days of time. And at the end of which, if I tell, Party Romba nanna irukku poda idella ukkandu sollinde. So she is so humble that she doesn't want to accept any kind of accolades. But there, I'm not blaming, but the concept is you do a small thing, you're appreciated. In our country, probably the saddest part is we do not know how to market. We are a great country. This is the first thought that I want to instill in our minds, because before realizing in what profession we are, we need to understand where we are. We are in the best of the countries and we can make it even more better. Now coming to the concept of rejuvenation. Can somebody tell me what is rejuvenation? Of course, there's a brochure that carries the rough meaning of what rejuvenation means in the business sense. So, but I still want people to throw in ideas, because, you know, remember in management, words don't have specific definitions. It's the way you articulate it. Number solra vidathila dhaan the definition e amayum. In management, it's all about the art of you convincing that this is the definition. So if you can convince, that's the definition. Tomorrow somebody will write a book. This is what Mr. Somebody said in the LUGI conference way back in 2016. You know, it will become a beautiful history to discuss. So can you just add ideas about what is rejuvenation? Tamiliyum sollalam, Kannadaliyum sollalam. Puttunarchi. Next. Refreshment. So you refresh yourself, which is adding energy, which is rejuvenation. Well, other definitions. Yeah. Utsaagam. So you're talking about excitement, which is an integral part of rejuvenation. Anything else? Uruvakudal. So which is about creating or innovating, to be very exact. Excellent. Transmission. Transmission is about a small change for the good, which is slightly linked to rejuvenation. Yes. Refresh. Well, you're agreeing with your partner who also said refresh, which is very good. Kalaittuvam is the word that you've said? Tanittuvam. Okay, to maintain an individual identity or being unique. Urutti, Uruvan. In Tamil, the Urutti Maganai Pirandu, Urutti Maganai Volirthu Valarndu is a beautiful line. And we might have heard of our great actors doing Naan Aayirathil Oruvan and things like that. What does that Oruvan mean? Ondru, Oruvan, Oruthi doesn't mean one. It means the unique one. You take all your blood reports to the doctor sees it, head to tail, the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, this and that, he'll finally say, you know, ஆயிரத்தில் ஒத்தருக்கு தான் சார் இந்த மாதிரிலாம் ரிப்போர்ட் இருக்கும். யூ ஆர் த ஒன். ஸோ வி ஃபீல் ப்ரவுட். நான் ஆயிரத்தில் ஒருவன். தட் இம்ப்ளிகேட்ஸ் தட் I am the unique one. So the uniqueness is what he said, tanittuvam. Yeah, anything else? A total change, a transition to something good. Marumalarchi, something which is rebirth. Restore something which is good. Well, thanks a lot. So we've got a variety of definitions which fall into rejuvenation. But what we need to look at is from the ancient perspective. Rejuvenation la, I'll give you two examples. One, what happens is when we listen, when we keep listening, at times we may just fall asleep. So one of the ways for me to ensure that audience don't fall asleep is to speak in a basal tone and then increase it and then bring it back. That kind of gives the alarm. One. Second thing, from your side, you could either record this. I don't mind you doing an audio recording of this. One. Or second thing, if you want, you can take down notes if you feel something is worth noting. See, I cannot force someone note down. When that person says that nothing is worth noting, I cannot force. But still, I cannot coax. But if you find something worth noting, you can always pass it on to your children. Remember, speeches are not catered only to one audience. It can go for a variety of audience. It can go to your child, it can go to your grandchild, it can go to your wife, it can go to your husband, it can go to your brother, it can go to a society. So the first example that we are going to look at is from Ramayanam. In Ramayanam, we have this great character called Ram. He's married to one wife, because in those days Rama was an exception, because every king will have minimum 2 or 3 wives. So they used to look down upon Rama. Hey, he's married only to one person. So he was that kind of an exception. So he was married to Sita, and they kind of lived a very happy life in Ayodhya. She was married at the age of 6. He was married at the age of 12. Had they been married now, they would have been behind the bars. So at the age of 12 and 6. But very mature in their thoughts and thinking. Then she came to her husband's house, and she had a very good mother-in-law, which is also a blessing in some of the houses. So she had the best of the mother-in-laws, and then she used to comb her hair and things like that. And Sita lived with Ram very happily, because these days getting married is tougher, and staying together after marriage is even tougher. So they lived happily together, and now Rama was turning 24 to 25 and she was 18. That is when the father, Dasharatha, thought it's high time that, it seems Kalidasa, the great Sanskrit poet, tells, he went and combed his hair in front of a mirror. He noticed a single strand of grey hair, and he thought it's high time that I give the baton to my son. For a single strand of grey hair, the person thinks I have to give the responsibility. Today, even though you're close to dying, you always want to die yourself and prove that you're always Sindura Puve 16 vayadinile. So, this person, Dasharatha, wanted to coronate his son. So he made arrangements for it. It was a very ad hoc situation. So he called his best of the charioteers, who was also a mantri. He said, come, let's make all arrangements. Make sure that all arrangements are done through check or this thing, no more cash. He said. So it was for the dark Rama, because Rama was Kariyan Oru Kalai. Rama was called the black beauty. So he said, my son can be black, not the money. So all the arrangements were made for the coronation. That is when the maid servant of Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi grew up in a region which is close to Afghanistan and Pakistan called KKM. Since she belonged to KKM, she was called Kaikeyi. And her mother did not have time to nurture her own daughter, so she hired a nanny who could give her food, who could cook, who could train her. So this maid servant was called Manthara or Kuni. Kondai konda kodai meedu teen ulavu kuni koon unda unda rangavotti ul magilnda nadanur is a beautiful Tamil verse that describes the hunch of Kuni. So Kuni was the maid servant. She came all the way to Ayodhya. And Kaikeyi belonged to Afghanistan, but the great sage of Kanchi called Paramacharya used to state that Kaikeyi belonged to Russia. Nevertheless, the point remains that the concept of having a foreign daughter-in-law ruling the country has been existing in the world. So Manthara came all the way to Ayodhya, and she said, see, your son is not being coronated, it is somebody else's son. Do you know how to wash utensils? She said, why should I learn? Because tomorrow if Rama becomes the king, probably you may pathu paatram theka vendiya nelama vandrum. So make your son. That's when she went and forced her husband. Her husband fell prey to the accusations and the promises that he had to throw, because there's a general statement about Dasharatha. Dasharatha was a king who used to promise in haste and repent in leisure. அவசரத்தில் ஏதாவது ஒரு வரம் கொடுத்துருவார், அப்புறம் ஐயோ ஏன் தான் கொடுத்தோமோ மெதுவாக உட்காந்து வருத்தப்படுவார். So he said, okay, I give you the boons. And that is when Rama was called. Plan A, you will become the king. 2 hours later he was called again. Plan B, you will not become the king, you have to go to the forest. Thank God it was Rama. Had it been Krishna, he would have filed a legal suit against Dasharatha. Dasharatha was lucky to have Rama as a son. So Rama goes to the forest with his wife Sita. They live happily in the forest. No petitions, no media, no limelight. They were very, very happy as a couple. That's when in the penultimate year, at the end of the 13th year, Shurpanaka comes. She describes the beauty of Sita to Ravana. Ravana comes and abducts her. She's being abducted. Rama starts crying. And then he goes further down to Bellary district of Karnataka, which is Kishkinda. Then he finds another person, a monkey called Sugriva, who has also lost his wife. So Sugriva does the same pinch. He says, oh, you know, my wife is also missing, so is your wife. He was very delighted about his wife missing. That is when Rama thought, in your uncertain times, you will have to have a coalition with unequal partners. So he said, okay, let's have a deal. You help in rescuing my wife, I will help in rescuing your wife. Simple. It's an MOU. Sita Kapindraha Kshanada Charanam Rajiva Hemojjvala Nopamani Sugrivaram of Pranaya Prasange Vamani Netrani Samam Spuranti is a beautiful verse. The interval shloka which Valmiki, as a director of the movie called Ramayana, describes. So that's when Sugriva's wife is restored. Further down, he tells, okay, I delegate my teams to go in search of Sita. So there's a north team, there's a south team, there's a east team, there's a west team. So he throws a huge map and he tells the monkeys, okay, this is the road, this is called North Usman Road, this is called the South Usman Road, this is the Bazulla Road, this is the Vivek Signal, this is the Venkat Narayana Road, this is outer ring road of Bangalore, where if you're caught, you'll be caught forever. So, you know, he tries describing road after road, and Rama was kind of surprised. How can a person know the road's name, distance, way in, way out by heart? Sugriva, you're a very intelligent man, he said. Sugriva said, you know, I'm not that intelligent. I have passed all my examinations with arrears. But the beauty lies in me knowing the roads, because these were the roads in which my brother Vali chased me. So I know each of these roads very well. That's when he tells Hanuman, you need to go down south. And Hanuman goes with an odd man out. All of them are monkeys. One of the odd monkeys out was Hanuman. Hanuman was a very cultured, civilized, educated monkey. So then there was this Jambavan, very age-old character who has been overliving for generations. So this Jambavan is there, and there are other monkeys. So they all go down south. Terkku pogumbodhu, they see a vulture called Sampati. Sampati tells, ingendu doorakendu paatha oru 100 yojana distance, it's 100 yojanas. So whichever monkey can manage jumping or flying can do it. So one monkey said, see, I'm a big Rio kind of Olympics participator, so I can do it for 10 yojanas. One says 20, one says 50, there's no use. There's one who says 100, but he happens to tell that I can jump, but I won't have the stamina to come back. So every monkey tried to get out of it, nobody could do it. That's when Jambavan turns towards this educated, cultured, humble monkey called Hanuman. He tells Hanuman, you can do it. You're too powerful. But the beauty is, you don't understand your own potential. You have a power to do it, but I am sure you can do it. So you should be sure that you can do it. When I am sure, as a third person, as a second person, you as a first person should be sure that you can do it. That's when Hanuman recognizes what all power he has, and he starts flying. So this has a very beautiful... See, when we listen to Puranas and we listen to stories, people will ask, "Ena korangu pesitha." Korangu tavitha. See, that's not the point that we have to take in. Whether monkeys can fly or not is a different thing. That there could be a fantasy element to it. People could have exaggerated, but what we need to understand is motivation is what is the first step to rejuvenation. When you motivate, I heard many of the speakers say that nobody else can motivate but yourself, which is very true. At times when you have external motivation, that adds to it, no doubt. But remember that realizing one's potential, like how Hanuman did upon receiving the words of Jambavan, is the primary and the most important step of rejuvenation. But rejuvenation doesn't stop there. I motivate some person, unnal mudiyum thambi and the paatalla nanna paadren. But unnal mudiyumna, the person should first understand where he stands. That is the second example we are going to take for rejuvenation, which is nothing but Krishna and Arjuna. See, Bhagavad Gita has been explained in various formats. Krishna standing. If I say Krishna standing, nobody understands in most of my lectures. I should say N.T. Ramarao standing, then they can understand, oh, N.T. Ramarao is standing. So N.T. Ramarao stands and whoever is the Arjuna listens to it, and this is the Bhagavad Gita that we have been taught. But Bhagavad Gita can be explained in a very, very simple sense. You ask a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old child, you call the child, Ikami. The child will stand upon the bench and will show the teeth, the 2 rows of tiny, tiny milk teeth. You take a brush and you start brushing the child's teeth. The child notices how you brush, and the next day the child starts brushing by itself. Simple. 3-4 years later, maybe 5 years later, when the child is in class 1, the science teacher comes inside the class. Good morning, children. Good morning, miss. You know why we brush our teeth every morning? No, miss. You know, when you brush your teeth, your germs will go away. So, first was the karma, the work, the action, which is brushing. Next came the jnanam, which is associated with it, why you brush. Years later, the child will want to brush properly with lot of interest. Yeno danonu pallu tekame tekkanam olunga tekkanam nenekkirathu, that is bhakti. So these are the stages of Bhagavad Gita where the Lord tells, do an action, have the knowledge of why you are performing that action, along with that action and knowledge, do it with a passion. So there is karma, there is jnanam, and there is bhakti. This becomes a very, very important part in any profession that we take. Be it any profession, you could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, you could be an accountant. But what keeps you apart from others is when you realize and recognize what you are actually doing. That's very, very important. If you can't, then you can never rejuvenate yourself. This is rejuvenation. But what is learning is earning. See, earning is a major part which you are all working towards, which I am working towards. So earning money is an integral part. But retaining what is earned is what is learning. See, the concept of Provident Fund, PF, starts in every company where you get a salary of X, and there's a small portion called X1 which your employer catches and tells, I will not give this. This is your money. I'm not going to give you. I will give you when you're about to retire, because that's when you need this money. So he's so confident that we will never end up saving. That's why he saves for us. So when you are about to retire, when one is about to retire, he accumulates this X1, 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 and finally tells this is the Provident Fund. In the earning is what happens in knowledge too. For example, I'm sure all of you are here to somewhere share ideas, to learn ideas, and you're sitting through the lectures. In the lecture, you're going back home. But the beauty about lectures is, this is a general observation that I've made. Lecture la ukkarumbodu onnu purira madri irukum, nannave purira madri irukum. ஆனால் எழுந்து அந்த லெக்சர் முடிக்கும்போது எழுந்துக்கும்போது என்னமோ புரிஞ்சா மாதிரி இருக்கும். அண்ட் வென் வி கோ பேக் ஹோம் கேட்டா மாதிரி இருக்குமோ என்னமோ. ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் த ஸ்டேஜஸ் பிகாஸ் நாலேஜ் பிகம்ஸ் வெரி வாலடைல். Unless and until one retains that knowledge, earning can never transform into learning. This is a very, very important concept. But how do we understand learning and how do we understand earning? There's a beautiful verse by Krishna which has been adopted by LIC. I'm sure when you see the tagline, which is Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham, the verse goes thus: Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Janaha Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Yogam Kshemam. கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா அந்த வார்த்தை? Yogam, Kshemam. What is Yogam? Yogam has nothing to do with yoga. Then Ramdev has to come and speak. Yogam is Ulagam. Yogam is bird. Lokam is Ulagam. Yogam. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Yogam. Wealth. Okay. Kshemam? Nalam. So wealth is Nalam. Abdin Vardartha. Abdi. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Yogam na Kshemam na Jalala. Yogam, Kshemam, Yoga Kshemam, Vahamyaham. See, in Sanskrit, you'll have to be very careful the way you split words. Unmele, ipo Dvijaha, abdine, Vadamurilo or Vartark. Dvijaha. Dvijaha, abdina, Dvi na rende. Ja na pirakarde. Yedi rende vati pirakindrado, aduk Dvijaha na per. The tooth is referred to as Dvijaha in Sanskrit. You know why? Ena porakkumbodhu konjam valara verikkum or 6-7 vayas verikkum milk teeth in irukum. Then the milk teeth starts falling and you get the permanent teeth. So there's a stage 1 birth, stage 2 birth. Since it is born twice, Dvirjayate, the tooth is referred to as Dvijaha. Incidentally, when you look at Dvijaha in a bird is also called Dvijaha. Why? In zoology, பிரிக்கும்போது உயிரினங்களை ஓவிபாரஸ் விவிபாரஸ்னு பிரிப்போம். ஓவிபாரஸ்னா எது தாய்கிட்டேருந்து முட்டையா வந்து முட்டையிலேருந்து குஞ்சு வருகின்றதோ இந்த அதுக்கு ஓவிபாரஸ்னு பேர். நம்மளாம் விவிபாரஸ், அம்மா வந்து முட்டையை போட்டு நம்மளை பிறக்க வைக்கல, டைரக்டா அம்மா கிட்டேருந்து பிறந்துட்டோம். So we are all viviparous. Birds are oviparous. Since there's a 2-stage process, bird is also called Dvijaha. So how do we recognize whether this Dvijaha is the tooth or the bird? Based on the context. For example, give me peace. அப்படின்னா spelling of peace என்ன? P-E-A-C-E. Give me a piece. P-I-E-C-E. எப்படி கண்டுபிடிச்சேள் இந்த peace? ஒரே pronunciation தானே. How did you recognize? Give me peace. Give me a piece. The sentence is the same. Context. What is important in that context? The word a. Peace, நிம்மதினா எனக்கு ஒரு நிம்மதியை கொடுங்கள் அப்படின்னு கேட்க மாட்டோம். A piece. Whereas when you ask for a noun, peace, you ask for a piece. So context வச்சு கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். So every language is like that. Now, when I have to understand Yoga Kshemam, remember this. This is a very important thing. I'm sure you're all stalwarts and pioneers in LIC. But the most important part is when we recognize what is Yoga Kshemam. Yogam. கிடைக்காதது கிட்டினால் அது யோகம், கிடைத்தது தங்கினால் அது க்ஷேமம். This is the definition for Yoga Kshemam. கிடைக்காதது கிட்டினால் யோகம், கிடைத்தது தங்கினால் க்ஷேமம். கிடைக்காதது எது? ஞானம், learning. So that you have to earn. First you earn, which is யோகம். கிடைக்காதது கிட்டினால் அது யோகம், earning. கிடைத்தது தங்க வேண்டும், அது learning, which is க்ஷேமம். So earning is learning is yoga kshemam vahamyaham. What constitutes this learning process is when you pave your sense organs as clear and unadulterated as possible. Let me make it simple. புலன்கள் அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்றோம் இல்லையா, இந்திரியங்கள். வசே விதாய பஞ்சகம் புமான்ஹி கூர்மவத்ததஹ சமஷ்ணுதே மகாபலம் ஸ்வசப்த ஜன்ம சம்பவம் இஸ் a beautiful proverb. ஐம்புலன்கள், ஐந்திலே ஒன்று பெற்றார் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றை தாவி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றை யாராக ஆரியூர்க்காக ஏகி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று பெற்ற அனங்கை கண்டு அயலார் ஊரில் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று வைத்தான். So here you talk of 5 elements constituted with 5 sense organs. See, sense organs are the ways which is very, very important for us to learn. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, இப்போ வந்து we are in a very packed room, closed room, very nice room. Imagine the doors were open and somebody is making masal vada outside. Okay, for those Bangaloreans who are here from my city, so somebody is making masal dosa. And what will happen when the masala dosa is really a good masala dosa? How do you recognize there's a masala dosa? Smell. So what happens is, மூக்குனால தான் இப்போ பிரச்சனை. Now I'm delivering a lecture. What happens is your nose is diverting you from what you listen. Imagine that there's a huge screen behind and they are playing the scenes from Kabali, and I'm speaking. நான் பேசிட்டு இருக்கேன், பின்னாடி கபாலி. What will happen? Your eyes will start going towards it. How much ever நான் என்னென்னவோ தமிழெல்லாம் போட்டு முத்தைத்தரு பத்தி திருநகை எல்லாம் கண்ணா அப்படின்னா சாலமன் பாப்பையா பட்டிமன்ற மாதிரி பேசுகிறேன், ஆனால் nobody may even recognize because you've got something to watch. So your eyes go behind something that you can watch. Your nose goes behind something you can smell. Imagine I'm having hot jamuns here, கோவா. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, எங்கள் சம்பிரதாயத்தில் வந்து அக்கார வடிசல்னு பண்ணுவா. I don't know if you've heard of that sweet. I'll give you a very good recipe of that. You can always try it yourself, or if your wife is cooperative, you can ask her to try as well. So it's like you'll have to steam rice and cereals together. பருப்பியும் சாதத்தையும் ஒன்றா வேக வைக்கணும். அது எப்படி வேக வைக்கணும்? பாதி ஜலம் பாதி க்ஷீரம் பால் நல்லா மசிய வேக வைக்கணும். ஏன்னா வெறையாக வேக வச்சுவிட்டா இங்கே மாட்டின்னு அவர் யோகக்ஷேமம் வஹாமியகம். ஸோ அதனால் you'll have to mash it really well, and then you'll have to condense milk on one side. Condensed milk இதில் ஆட் பண்ணி, then you'll have to add jaggery, and you'll have to add badam and cashew in the ratio of ஒரு அரிசி பருப்புக்கு ஒரு பாதாம், அந்த ரேஷியோவில் போடணும். இதில் நெய் சேர்க்கக்கூடாது. என்னென்னா இதை நெய்யில் சேர்க்கணும். You're getting the difference. So you will see a lot of people, the family members enjoying the insurance benefit when one person consumes like this. So ஏன்னா ஆழ்வாரே சொல்றார், நெய்யிடை நல்லதோர் ஷோரும் நியதமும் அத்தாணி சேவகமும். So he tells நெய்யிடை ஷோரு. He doesn't tell ஷோரிடை நெய், நெய்யிடை ஷோரு. So take a big barrel of ghee, heat it, and then add this to it. And imagine whether you can go by the highway or the bypass. That's your point. But this is an akara vadisal. So if I keep that sweet in front of you, the tongue is what that kind of waggers. It's about to just taste. The technical Tamil word is jollu. When I tried giving an English lecture outside our country in Kenya, I had to bring this jollu word there. So I said jollu. Person asked, he was Stephen from the African countries, what is jollu? See, I said, I cannot translate it because jollu is not saliva. Yechil is not jollu. Jollu is that saliva which wants to taste that but is not able to and starts dripping. So, oru jollu vaarthekku na evvalo explanation kodukka vendiyadha. So that's why I said, at times English fails. Nevertheless, but we am still using this language. So here you've got sense organs going behind. If one can control that sense organs, then you become a better learner. That's very, very important. சாப்பிட்ருக்கோம், தூக்கம் வருது, லெக்சர் கேட்கும்போது கேட்டால் நன்னா இருக்குமேன்னு தோன்றது, but you're not able to control that sleep, then you're losing it out somewhere. If you've got something worthwhile to listen, but that's why I generally don't prefer to take up into PowerPoint presentations, because the attention is slightly diverted to what is there on the screen. It's not bad, but it still diverts. So being a very, very good learner implies that you need to know how and when to control the sense organs. One. Second is communication skills. I'll just take a few minutes off from the topic to understand what communication skills is. Communication skill எப்படி பேசணும் அப்படிங்கிறது எல்லா ப்ரொஃபஷன்லையுமே முக்கியம். டாக்டர்லேருந்து, ஆடிட்டர்லேருந்து, பப்ளிக் ஸ்பீக்கர்லேருந்து, டீச்சர்லேருந்து, மதர் ஃபாதர்லேருந்து, you should know how to convince. How do we know? For this I'll just give you a beautiful incident from Ramayana which you all should relish. Hanuman is an educated monkey. See, you go to a zoo, Vandalur ஜூக்கு போகிறோம். எந்த நம்பிக்கையில் போகிறோம்? அங்கே வந்து நம்மளை விட குறைச்சலாக படித்த, குறைச்சலாக ஞானம் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஜந்துக்களை பார்க்குறோங்கிற நம்பிக்கையில் போகிறோம். We go there, stand before a cage. There are many monkeys inside. You're holding the bars of the cage. The monkey is confused whether we are inside the jail or it is inside. Yeah. So I hold the bars. There's a monkey that comes. Aditya Hridayam Punyam Sarvashatru Vinashanam அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். I will run out of fear out of Vandalur Zoo. See, my concept of a monkey is very wavering. It can never make decisions. It can never speak. It can never understand. This is my understanding. Imagine a monkey being very educated. That was the position of Hanuman. But Hanuman is going to meet Rama and Lakshmana now. So he cannot take himself in a monkey form. So he disguises himself in the human form and he goes before Rama. And he tells, Ayatascha suvrittascha bahavaha parigopamaha. You're very handsome, you've got lotus-like eyes. அதெல்லாம் அந்த காலத்தில் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் உண்டே. அழகிய நிலா, இது தீபாவளி கல்கி மலரில் வரும். ஏன்னா அந்த கல்கியில் தீபாவளி மலர்னு தனியாக போடுவா. அதில் கோபால் ஹேமாவை அழைத்து கொண்டு தீபாவளி இரவு மொட்டை மாடிக்கு சென்றான். ஹேமா, அதோ தெரிகின்ற முழு நிலவை பார்த்தாயா? அம்மாவாசை ராத்திரி தீபாவளி. இவர் எங்கே நிலாவெல்லாம் விடுவார்? அதனால see, it happens that if you're a poet, you'll have to bring that full moon, you'll have to bring those பவழத்தை ஒத்த உதடுகளை கூடியவளே, சந்திரனை ஒத்த திருமுகத்தோடு கூடியவளே, இப்படிலாம் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் கொடுக்க வேண்டியதாக இருக்கும். ஸோ ஹனுமான் goes and he tells, you're so beautiful, you're handsome. 2-3 வரிகள் சொல்கிறார். சொன்ன உடனே ராமர் turns towards Lakshmana and tells 6 verses about what communication skills are. நான்ருக்வேத வினீதஸ்ய நாயஜுர் வேத தாரிணः நா சாமவேத விதுஷः சக்யமேவம் பிரபாஷித்தும் நூனம் வியாக்கரணம் கிருத்ஸ்னம் அனேன பகுதாஸ்ருதம் பகுவ்யாஹரதானேன ந கிஞ்சித் அபசப்திதம். He tells Lakshmana, look at the way this person has spoken. எப்படி பேசுறான் பார். He is neither too fast, ரொம்ப வேகமாக பேசக்கூடாது. கம்யூனிகேஷன் ஸ்கில்ஸில் கேட்டிருக்கீங்க சார், சொல்லிட்டு see, when you speak fast, you are having a conception that the person will not understand and will not ask questions. You should never use that technique. வேகமாக பேசக்கூடாது. அதுக்காக மெதுவாக யோசித்து பேசணுங்கிறதுக்காக ரொம்ப மெதுவாக பேசிவிட்டா அதுவும் கஷ்டம். உங்களுக்கு நான் இப்படி பேசிட்டார்னா எப்போ முடிப்பார்? ஸோ இட் ஷுட் neither be too fast not too slow. You should not scream. Vartate madhyame sware. It should be at a pitch where people can relish, understand and enjoy. ரொம்ப கீழியும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. நான் உங்களுக்கு அப்படியும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. ரொம்ப மேலேயும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. See, communication skills is not easy. நான் பேசுகிறபடி தான் பேசுவேன்னா பேசுகிறபடி பேசலாம், கேட்குறவா இருக்கணுமே. So communication skills is something that we need to customize and tailor. Third important thing, you need to make an eye contact. All this is mentioned in Ramayana. It is called Bhashana Kaushalam, how to speak. See, today we pay lakhs together for a business school. Go sit, the professor will come, make an eye contact. 11 லட்சம் அந்த கோர்ஸுக்கு கட்டுறோம். ராமாயண உபன்யாசம் நான் சொல்லுவேன், ஐ கான்டாக்ட். ஐயோ, ராமாயணம் சொல்கிறார், இதில் என்ன இருக்க போகிறது? See, we believe that something that comes for free doesn't have a value, and when we pay lakhs together, it will have a bigger value. So we need to make sure that we make an eye contact. That's very important. Generally, when I listen to people, they'll say, sir, everything is fine. ஆனால் ஸ்டேஜ் ஏறினா கொஞ்சம் பயமாக இருக்குது, எல்லாரும் எப்படி ரியாக்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. டோன்ட் வரி, லுக் அட் தெம், they'll stop yawning. Look at them, they will start noticing you. Look at them, they will not look anywhere else. They should fear you, we should not fear them. So this is an integral part of communication skills. Next, you need to use the right word. For that, manasa vacha karmana. When you think, you speak. Don't do 2 things simultaneously. That thinking and speaking la ஒரு மைரழ வித்தியாசம் இருக்கணும். When you think while you are speaking, you will make mistakes. ஐயோ சார், யோசிக்காமல் சொல்லிட்டேன் சார், மன்னிக்கணும். Your thinking and speaking should differ by 0.5 seconds. யோசிச்சதை பேசணும், ஆனால் ரொம்ப டைம் எடுக்கக்கூடாது. This has to come with practice. See, I still remember after my education in Pilani, Birla Institute of Technology and Science in Rajasthan, when I came down to Bombay, I had to do my internship. கார்த்தால 9 மணிலேருந்து சாயங்காலம் 5 மணி வரைக்கும் போய் லெபார்ட்டரியில் வேலை பார்க்கணும். அண்ட் சண்டே டு சாட்டர்டேல 7 நாளில் 6 நாள் நான் சாயங்காலம் 5:30லேருந்து 9:30 மணி இங்கிலீஷ் போய் கற்றுக் கொடுப்பேன். டோம்பிவில்லிங்கிற ஒரு இடம் பாம்பேயில், அங்கே போய் கற்றுக் கொடுப்பேன். ஒரு நாள் ஃப்ரீ. என்ன பண்ணுறதுன்னு தெரியல. I didn't have a television, so I did not know what to do. So that's when I thought, let me teach something. So there were many Marwari people in that region, Shahad region, பேர் கல்யாண் பக்கத்தில். So I put a notice அடிச்சு போட்டேன், Sanskrit shlokas being taught. சும்மா 4 hours 2 hours வந்து உட்காந்துக்கலாமே. I was surprised. நிறைய அட்வர்டைஸ் பண்ணி பேப்பருக்குள்ளே இன்சர்ட் எல்லாம் வச்சு கிளாஸ்க்கு போனால் ஒத்தர் இல்லை. And I was like very sad, ஒத்தர் கூட வரமாட்டாளா அப்படின்னு. So then I went and spoke to the MD there. He said, ஸ்லோகம் கற்று தர போகிறேன் அப்படின்னு எழுதினேளே, கீழே அதனால் என்ன பெனிஃபிட்டுன்னு எழுதினீங்களா அப்படின்னு கேட்டார். So that's when communication becomes very important. That's when I said benefit. wealth will pour inside your house. You know, there were 100 people the next day. But I did not stay for the entire tenure because they would have come and hit me if wealth did not pour inside their house. So I did not stay till they enjoyed the benefit. The point remains that as human beings, we all want to enjoy benefits. So when you have to communicate benefits to a person, communication skills become very, very, very important. இங்கிலீஷில் தான் இருக்கணுங்கிறது இல்லை, தமிழ்லையும் இருக்கலாம், கன்னடாலையும் இருக்கலாம். Whichever language you take, make sure that the language you speak uses the right words. ந கிஞ்சித் அபசப்திதம், வேண்டாத வார்த்தை, வேண்டாத வரிகள் இதெல்லாம் போடவே கூடாது. So this comes with practice. So communication skills also become an integral part of learning. Next, the most important part of learning, which is rejuvenation, is ethics. Ethics is something that you find at times very worrying and sad when you look at the news. Ipalla news channels are plenty. Written, print, visual media, audio media is plenty. So you keep on hearing. So there's no way that you can escape. Or you see one person at 9 p.m. in the night calling 10 people together, shouting at one voice. இல்லையா 10 பேரை ஒன்னா கூட்டு எல்லாரும் ஒரே சமயத்தில் 1 hour கத்தின்னு இருப்பா, யார் என்ன கத்துறான்னு தெரியாது. ஆனால் this is how news channels work. But the point remains in trying to understand what is ethics. You find various cases, without mentioning any of them, some could be under trial, some could be under the judicial process. Mother kills her own daughter. Is this somewhere that you can expect a mother to have a child she struggles to have, and every day of her gestation period passes by understanding இந்த குழந்தை எப்படி இருக்குன்னு. அந்த பெத்த குழந்தைய ஒரு அம்மா கொல்றா அப்படின்னா what is the ethics left? When you see a father misbehaving with his own daughter, where is ethics? So education may have a strong role to play in the character building, but education alone doesn't make that character building. It is also the way in which we have been brought up. Nammai valartha vidam becomes very, very important. That is where ethics play a very, very major role in rejuvenation. For this, I would like to give you 2 examples. One example is that of Arjuna. Arjuna was a hero of his times. You know how big he was a hero? All women used to have a cutout poster of Arjuna in their bedrooms, and they used to keep dreaming about whether he'll become my husband. He was that kind of a hero, a very all-charming, very athletic, 6 abs, all, you know, those kind of a gym body, very, very built, and a very handsome person. So all women used to keep dreaming about him. It so happened that in their tenure, அந்த கௌரவர்களோட சொத்து பிரச்சனை போர்ட் ரூம்லேருந்து ஆரம்பித்து எல்லா இடத்துலையும் இருக்குது. ஸோ அந்த சொத்து பிரச்சனைன்னு வரும்போது கிருஷ்ணா செட், அர்ஜுனா, இட்ஸ் ஹை டைம் தட் யூ டெவலப் யுவர் ஸ்கில்ஸ் என்ன வளர்த்துக்கோ. இது போராது, கௌரவர்களோட சண்டை போட இது போறவே போராது. ஸோ யூ கோ சம்வேர் டு தேவலோகத்தில் அங்கே எல்லா ஸ்கில்ஸும் கற்று தருவா. யூ லேர்ன். He goes all the way to heaven. He learns dancing from Urvashi. Imagine a great warrior, 6 abs எல்லாம் பாடி எல்லாம் வச்சுட்டு பரதநாட்டியம் கற்றுருக்கார். That's when he wanted to understand, எதுக்கு கிருஷ்ணா நான் பரதநாட்டியம் கற்றுக்கோ, it will be helpful. Remember, this is a very big moral. Whatever we listen today, some may wonder, இந்த அர்ஜுனன் கதையெல்லாம் சொல்றாரு என்னவோ யூஸ். It will come to use someday or the other. Knowledge is never a waste. ஏன் அவுரங்கசீப் பற்றி படித்தோம், ஏன் டிஃபரன்ஷியல் கால்குலஸ் படித்தோம், ஏன் x square is 2x, ஏன் x squareோட இன்டெகிரேஷன் இஸ் x cube by 3, ஏன் எல் ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் ரூல், ஏன் பெர்னாலிஸ் தியரம், ஏன் பாயில்ஸ் லா. These could be questions, but it will have some benefits someday or the other. So Arjuna learnt Bharatanatyam from Urvashi. See, from Bangalore people you may know, Urvashi Theatre, it was one of the landmarks in Bangalore next to MTR, where people used to stand in queues. Today, people create such a halabalu. Yo, 100 ரூபாய் நோட்டுக்காக நிற்கிற மசால் தோசைக்காக எவ்வளோ பேர் நின்றுருக்கா. So Urvashi was the name of a damsel. She was a great dancer, and she was the most prettiest woman of those days. Why? Because Uru in Sanskrit means thigh. தொடைக்கு ஊருன்னு பேரு சம்ஸ்கிருதத்தில். ஊருவஷி, எவள் ஒருவள் திருமாலின் தொடையிலிருந்து வந்தவளோ அவளுக்கு ஊர்வஷின் பேரு, implying that she was very beautiful. So Urvashi was the trainer. Imagine you're having the Miss Universe or Miss World as your dance trainer. Whether you learn dance, you'll at least keep looking at her. So Arjuna had this opportunity where he had Urvashi as the trainer. He kept on learning. At the end of which, Urvashi said, "You've been such a good student. I thought you are very good at Dhanur Vidya, but ana idila pramadama dance aadriyeppa." So he said, "It's high time that I pay you my Guru Dakshina. So give me your NEFT, give me your IFSC code, I will transfer." He said all that. And that's when she said, "See, I don't need all of that." Imagine a teacher saying, "I don't need anything." You love that teacher. So she said, "I don't need any of that. Enakku oru paisa venda. Ana onnu, nee enna kalyanam pannikkanum." Imagine every mother sends the child to the school with the confidence the teacher will be like a mother or father. If the teacher ends up marrying the student, no parent will want to send their child. But Arjuna was the hero of those days. He was so charming that the teacher fell in love. So Arjuna said, "See, this is not right. நான் வந்து கரெக்டான ஒரு உதாரணம், அதாவது ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் செட் பண்ண மாட்டேன். People will think that you can marry your own teacher, then there will be no ethics left. So I will not marry you." So she was so angry. See the beauty, you know what reason he tells. இவனுடைய மூதாதையன், அதாவது அர்ஜுனனுடைய அப்பாவுடைய 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 அப்பால புரூரவஸ்னு ஒரு ராஜா. அந்த புரூரவஸுக்கு இந்த ஊர்வஷியோட ஒரு குழந்தை இருக்கு. See, it's like ending up marrying your great 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 grandmother. So he said, "I cannot marry you. So leave this." So she gave a shapam. ஒரு வருஷத்துக்கு நீ வந்து பிருகன்னலையா இருப்ப. You will be a person who's neither a man nor a woman for 1 year. அப்படின்னு ஒரு வருஷம். It so happened that ஒரு வருஷம் அஜ்ஞாதவாசம் இருக்கும்போது Arjuna ended up being the Bharatanatyam teacher to the princess of that region called Uttara அப்படின்னு பேர். உத்தராக்கு இவர் தான் டான்ஸ் டீச்சர். ராஜா பார்த்தார், இவர் கற்று தரட்டும் அப்படின்னு விட்டுட்டார். ஒரு வருஷம் கற்று தந்தா. ஒரு வருஷம் கற்று தந்து முடிஞ்ச உடனே he again got back his original form of the macho man Arjuna. So this king thought, "Oh, Arjuna இவ்வளவு நாள் என் பொண்ணுக்கு டான்ஸ் கற்று கொடுத்துருக்காரு. ஓகே சார், என் பொண்ணை கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்கோங்க." See, Arjuna had offers coming down from everywhere. He goes to become a student, the teacher wants to marry. Now he becomes the teacher of somebody, the student wants to marry. So now he said the same thing. See, I don't reject anybody's application, he said. Now ஒரு application reject பண்றதில்லை, ஆனால் there is an ethics to it. I said I cannot marry Urvashi because she is my teacher. I cannot marry Uttara because she is my student. So I will get her married to my son Abhimanyu. அப்படின்னு கல்யாணம் பண்ணிட்டார். So this Arjuna, one character, becomes a role model how to be ethical even while you are the Mr. World. It is for that reason, remember, that he was the only one chosen to receive Bhagavad Gita. See, in the middle of the battlefield, when the war is about to start, people were ready with 1, 2, 3, go. There is Krishna sitting in a very cool dude fashion, in his own position as a charioteer. He tells what is Karma Yogam, what is Jnana Yogam, what is Bhakti Yogam. He tells it to Arjuna. Nobody could manage hearing even one word. ஒரு வார்த்தை யாராலையும் கேட்க முடியல. பெருமாள் சாரதியா இருக்கார், பின்னாடி ரத்தியா அர்ஜுனன் பார்த்தன் இருக்கான். எவ்வளவு பெரிய ஒரு கிளாஸ், ஒரு ட்ரைனிங் செஷன் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு. பட் nobody else who were around could participate. That is when this idiotic Duryodhana, he goes to Bhishma and tells, "Tata, sanda poda arambi." That is when Bhishma tells, "See, all these days because your father was doing the salary ECS transfer to my account, I had to listen to all that whatever crap you had said. But now I cannot take all of this. I am so worried. All these years I have been living like a Dumbledore of Harry Potter. இவ்வளவு வருஷமா உயிரோட இருந்து எதிர்க்க கிருஷ்ணர் சொல்றார் பகவத்கீதா, அதுல ஒரு வார்த்தை என்னால கேட்க முடியலையேங்கிற வருத்தத்துல நிற்கும் போது சண்டை போடு நீ நிக்கிறியே, உன்னை விட முட்டாள் இருக்காரா?" So the point here is Arjuna was a very fortunate, lucky person to receive Bhagavad Gita. Why? Krishna tells, "Tvam gudakeshaha." You are a gudakesha. Gudakesha means தூக்கத்தை ஜெயிச்சவன். He is the one who can be a very good learner. இதில் என்ன ஆயிடுறதுன்னா, சாப்பிட்டா தூக்கம், எழுந்தா பசி. See, it's a vicious cycle. You wake up, you feel hungry. When you eat, you feel sleepy. See, it's a vicious cycle. It's very tough to get out of it. A person who can manage both, அதனால தான் ஆயுர்வேதத்தில் நீங்க சொன்னா ஹிதமித போஜனம், have good food but have it as a limited food. இந்த மீல்ஸில் அன்லிமிட்டட்னு போட்டுட்டா எல்லாருக்கும் அன்லிமிட்டெட் மீல்ஸ் அசடு தான் இப்படி சந்தோஷப்படும். இந்த அன்லிமிட்டெட் மீல்ஸ் லிமிட்டடாக வச்சுட்டாதான் your learning process will be good. This is very, very important to rejuvenate, where one knows how to control that sleep. I am sure when Sriman Srinivasan sir spoke, he did mention about the number of books he had. And I also hear people when they say, "Sir, time e irukradilla." That's because we don't want to sacrifice our sleep timings. See, doctor, they do tell, ஒரு 8 மணி நேரம் தூங்கணும், 7 மணி நேரம் தூங்கணும். That's very much important. Sleep is an integral part of one's life. You need it. But if you want to do something extra than what others have not done, then you will have to spend that extra time. Where do you get that extra time from? You have to deduct it from your sleep. See, அவர் 8 மணி நேரம் தூங்குறார், நானும் 8 மணி நேரம் தூங்குறேன்னா how will I be different from him when I sleep for 7 hours and use that 1 hour to learn? So in this current world, learning, reading and listening become an integral part. Lastly, I would like to take up one sentence which has to be broken into parts. Bhagavad Gitaila Krishna oru vishayam solrar. Learn about yourself. 1. Learn about the work that you are doing. Learn about the destination. These 3 are important parts what Lord Krishna tells. He tells learn about yourself. Yourself na enna? Enna patti na therinjukona. Enna patti enna therinjukkiradhu? See, that's where the role of understanding something deeper becomes very important. What is obvious? Sir, என்ன பற்றி தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா லிவர் இருக்குது, இது இருக்குது, அது இருக்குது. பார்க்கறத தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறது பெரிய விஷயமே இல்லை. இப்போ ஒருத்தருக்கு 2 கை இருக்குது, சார் 2 கை இருக்குதுன்னு பார்த்துட்டேன், இதுன்னு பெரிய விஷயமா? பார்க்க முடியறது பார்க்குறேன். பட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் சம்திங் which is beyond the obvious is what spirituality is. ஏன் இப்படி நடக்கிறதுன்னு யோசிச்சு ஒரு விஷயம் வருது இல்லையா? That is about oneself. That self is called Atma. Why is it called Atma? Interestingly, ஆப்னோதி இதி ஆத்மா. எதை அடையணும்னு நினைக்கிறதோ அதை அடைகின்றபடியால் அதற்கு ஆத்மான்னு பேர். It attains what it wishes to attain. இப்போ நம்ம ஆத்மா உள்ளுக்குள்ள உறுதி இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, நான் இதை தான் பண்ணணும், பண்ணி முடிக்கிறது, that is called Atma. So soul means one who attains what he or she wishes to attain. Incidentally, those of you who are slightly acquainted with Vishnu Sahasranamam, you will remember Vyasam Vasishtha Naptaram Shaktef Pautram Akalmasham Parashara Atmajam Vande Shukatatam Taponidhim அப்படின்னு வரும். இதில் என்னென்னா வியாசரை பற்றி சொல்கிறா. வியாசர் யார்? வசிஷ்ட நப்தாரம், வசிஷ்டருடைய கொள்ளு பேரன். சக்தேவ் பௌத்ரம், சக்தி மகரிஷியுடைய பேரன். பராசர ஆத்மஜம், பராசரருடைய பிள்ளை. ஆனால் பிள்ளைன்னு சொல்கிறதுக்கு பதிலாக ஆத்மஜம்னு ஒரு வார்த்தையை போடுறார். ஏன்னு கேட்டால், லிசன் டு திஸ், இட்ஸ் அ வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் திங். தேர் இஸ் ஆல்வேஸ் அ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எடிஷன் டு அ புக். ஒரு புக்குன்னா ஒரு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எடிஷன் வரும். 1000 copies I sell. Then I give the second edition. Second edition la what the publisher should do is, first edition la irukra mistakes second edition la varakudad. Father is the first edition, the son or the daughter is the second edition. So the father's atma is the son, father's atma is the daughter. Why? ஆப்னோதி இத்தி ஆத்மா. எதை அடையணும்னு நினைக்கிறதோ அதை அடைகின்றபடியால் ஆத்மாவா? அப்பாவின் ஆத்மா அவர் பிள்ளையோ பெண்ணோ. ஏன்? அப்பாவால் லூகியில் கலந்துக்க முடியலன்னா பிள்ளைய கலந்துக்க சொல்லி சந்தோஷப்படுறாரு இல்லையா? அதனால அவரால் அடைய முடியாததை தம் பிள்ளைகளை கொண்டு அடைகின்றபடியால் திருத்தகப்பனாருக்கு பிள்ளைகள் ஆத்மா அப்படிங்கிறது டெஃபினிஷன். அதனால பராசர ஆத்மஜம். So understanding one's Atma, understanding where we stand becomes an integral part. Second, understanding one's work. காரியம், எந்த காரியம் பண்ணுறோம் அப்படிங்கிறது ரொம்ப முக்கியம். இதில் எல்லாரும் கடமையை செய், பலனை எதிர்பார்க்காதே, See, பலனை எதிர்பார்க்காதேன்னு சொன்னால் ரொம்ப கஷ்டமாக இருக்கும். என்ன சார் காரியம் பண்ணிவிட்டு பலனை எதிர்பார்க்காம இருந்தா எப்படின்னு. What it essentially means is, when you do a work and you get the result of it, don't take all the credit to yourself. Because in you doing the task, there are so many other people involved in it. There is your family, there is your friends, there is your nature which helps getting it done. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, இந்த வடகம் வீட்டில் வைக்கிறதுங்கிறது இப்போ வாங்கிறது, அப்போ வைக்கிறதுங்கிறது அந்த காலத்தில் ஒரு ப்ராக்டிஸ். நல்லா கூழை கலரிட்டு மொட்டை மாடியில் போய் அந்த வேஷ்டி எல்லாம், மாமாவுடைய வேஷ்டி அப்போ தான் உதவும், நல்லா வேஷ்டியெல்லாம் விரித்து அந்த கூழை இடுவா. So if the vadam turns out to be something really successful, it's not because the person has alone done it. The quality of the materials involved in making that vadam is there. The person who's making it is there. The sun which shines as nature is there. Then the person's efforts are there. So what essentially one tells is, don't take all the credit. Finally, upayam, where you understand what your destination is. Destination becomes very, very important if you want to recognize yourself as some particular character. இப்போ ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, சாக்ரட்டிஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு, he was a great philosopher in the European history. Socrates when you are a philosopher, 99% of the society will not agree with you. That's how a philosopher can be found. இவர் சித்தாந்தவாதின்னு எப்படி தெரியும்னா, இவர் சொல்றது யாருக்கும் புரியாது, பிடிக்காது. அதனால சாக்ரட்டிஸை they threw him inside a jail. He was there inside the jail, and in those days the way to kill a person was to give a poison called the hemlock. So he was to be given the poison hemlock, and the date was decided. அழகா ஒரு கப்பல் எடுத்துன்னு சுவாமி நீங்க எடுத்துக்கணும்னு சொல்ல அவரே குடிச்சிருவார், போயிடுவார். So the Socrates was to be killed the next day. அவருக்கு ஹெம்லாக் கொடுக்க போறா. அடுத்த நாள் Socrates was in jail, cell number 101. 102ல ஒரு நாட்டுப்புற பாடல் பாடக்கூடிய ஒருத்தரை அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கான் அந்த ராஜா. That Raja seems to be much a crappier person. He arrests anybody and everybody. So that person was detained. அவர் பாவம் ஏதோ பாடிண்டே இருக்கார். இந்த ரொம்ப பாடுறவா கல்யாணம் பண்ணிட்டாலோ பாடுறவா வீட்டில் இருந்தாலோ எப்பாவது கேள்விப்பட்டுட்டே இருப்பாள் பாட்டு. ஸோ அதனால அவர் ஏதோ பாடின்னு இருக்கார். So the Socrates is not able to see the other person, but he tells, "Sir, are you there?" Person, sir, yes sir, you sing really well. He's not able to see him, he's just able to speak. You sing really well. Can you teach me how to sing these folk songs? Sir, I can teach you, sir, but the problem is tomorrow you're dying. You're going to be given the poison hemlock. What is the use of learning today? He tells, I have lived a life. Tomorrow, some people in the society may end up talking about me. So they may end up saying Socrates was born on such a date to such parents. Right from his childhood he learned this and that. They will say he knew this, he knew this, he knew this, he knew this. They will list down those things that I knew. Today if I learn how to sing folk songs, they will say that he also knew how to sing folk songs. So for me, learning doesn't stop, it always begins. So learning is a portion that one should always continue at every point of time in one's life. A small learning that I had before we could go to a question answer session. I was in Kenya for lectures, and you have a good, very sizable Indian population there. So na upanyasangallam kuduttu vare. And Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, is very hilly. Konja malamalaya irukum. So the road went up. And you know very well, when the gradient is up, the vehicle needs more push from our side to go up. But this vehicle was moving at the snail's pace. I was like, we are driving here even on outer ring road of Bangalore, we try maneuvering and we do all those things. So I was like surprised. So the driver was Stephen. So I said, Stephen, you're very slow. There's a lorry going before us. Overtake, I said. He said, sir, what is overtake? I was like, this is the first word we learn when we are driving in India, right? Overtaking is an art. You have to be blessed. Purva janma punyangallam mannada overtake pannave mudiyum. So I was like, look at this person who doesn't know overtake. Then I realized, at times not knowing certain things is also learning. Right? If you have to learn certain good things, you need to learn how to unlearn certain things. See, வேண்டாத விஷயங்களை மறக்கிறதும் ஒரு ஆர்ட். என்னன்னா நம்ம மூளை இஸ் a very complex thing. Whatever you want it to remember, it will never remember. இதை ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோ, இன்னைக்கு என்னமோ ஊர்வஷின்னு சொன்னார், குடாகேஷன்னு சொன்னார், அர்ஜுனன் சொன்னார், ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோ அப்படின்னு you try feeding it in. It will go to certain cells of the memory, but slightly it will become naphthalene in nature, volatile in nature. ஆனால் 25 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி என் வீட்டுக்கு வந்த ஒருத்தர் என்னை பார்த்து கோவத்தோட கத்தின 2 வார்த்தை இன்னி வரைக்கும் ஞாபகம் இருக்கும். ஏன்? அப்போ வள்ளுவர் சொல்கிறார், தீயினால் சுட்ட புண் உள்ளாரும் ஆறாதே நாவினால் சுட்ட வடு. All that is fine. But our brain chooses what to remember and what to forget. So it is high time that we as professionals try developing the art of unlearning the irrelevant things, learning the good things, retaining it, because learning becomes earning. And when you learn and when you earn, that is when you are truly rejuvenated. Rejuvenated is infusing yourself with energy, and that infusing yourself with energy could be in any form. Water can exist as water, water can exist as ice, water can exist as gas, vapor. Likewise, energy can exist in the form of ideas. Energy could exist in the form of actions. Energy could exist in the form of motivation. Energy could exist in the form of our very, very beneficial existence. And all this can play a role if we imbibe a lot of things that we learn from our ancestors. பூர்வர்கள், சான்றோர்கள், பெரியவர்கள் நிறைய பேர் இந்த நாட்டில் இருந்திருக்கா. எவ்வளவு மொழிகள், எவ்வளவு புத்தகங்கள். Amazing you can see in our literature, and that literature is what our country is blessed with. So my first point was, as a country we are blessed. We are blessed with rich literature. We are blessed with a very, very rich culture. And my last point is, to that country, to that beautiful motherland of ours, we need to offer our salutations by just not saluting, but by always imbibing what we have learned and applying it to our life. கேட்டிருக்கிறீர்களா அப்படின்னு அந்த காலத்தில் கேட்பா. கேட்டிருக்கிறீர்களா அப்படின்னா கேட்டிருக்கிறீர்கள்னா கேட்டிருக்கலான்னு அர்த்தம். அது இல்லை, கேட்டு அதன்படி இருக்கிறீர்களா இஸ் கேட்டிருக்கிறீர்களா. ஸோ அப்ளிகேஷன் வித்தவுட் அப்ளிகேஷன், வாழ்க்கையின் நடைமுறையில் நாம் பயன்படுத்தாத எந்த ஒரு ஞானமும் வியர்த்தம். It is waste. It is a useless tinsel. Knowledge when applied becomes wisdom, and that wisdom is what everybody should strive for. Before I could conclude, we have hope we have a very good question answer session. So I would like to have a few mobile microphones to the audience, and if you have questions pertaining to the topic that we have discussed, or if you have certain general questions pertaining to our ancient stories and civilizational anecdotes, please do ask. If I have learnt it and if I have kind of remembered, I will surely answer. It will be my pleasure. If I do not know the answer, I will humbly submit that I do not know.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaskar.
Sir, a Brahmana is also called a Duja.
Correct.
Can you explain why, please?
Not only a Brahmana, in those days the 3 classes were called because at the age of 7 he undergoes education by taking the thread. So in those days when they used to put on the thread, they used to learn. So learning process is rebirth. So you are born from your mother once. At the age of 7 you are undergoing learning, which is a second birth. So 2 முறை பிறப்பதால் அவனுக்கும் த்விஜஹா என்று பேர். Yeah.
Sir, I am Gungumaraj. How to reduce my karma?
See, reducing karma is very tough. See, the point that he's trying to make is how to kind of lessen that. But karma is a very complicated structure. See, every action what I do, இப்போ நான் வந்து கையில் அசைக்கிறதோ நடந்து போகிறதோ எல்லாமே கர்மா தான். There's an action involved. But for every action there is a small effect associated. If there is an act, there is an effect. That effect could be visible, that effect could be invisible. ஒன்று இதெல்லாம் ஃபிசிக்கல். மென்டலி இப்போ நான் ஒருத்தரை பார்க்குறேன், வணக்கம் சார் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறேன், வாயால் சொல்கிறேன் வணக்கம், ஆனால் மனசுக்குள்ளே அவர் முழுக்க வெய்கிறேன், இவருக்கா வணக்கம் வணக்கம் சார் அப்படிங்கிறேன். இப்போது மென்டலி ஆல்சோ ஐ எம் ட்ரைங் டு ரிலேட் மை செல்ஃப். ஸோ ஃபிசிக்கல் கனெக்ஷன், mental connection, these are all karmas. Every karma has an effect. So ultimately, therinjo theriyamalo, we end up doing a lot of things which are more in wrong in nature. Correcta pandromo illiyo, tappu pandradhila we are all super specialized. So what is happening is, karma is an account, demat account, savings account madri, that's an account which keeps telling what are all the things that you have done, knowingly, unknowingly, physically, mentally, in your past births if you believe in that, in the current birth if you believe in that. So what happens is, அந்த கர்மாவை தொலைக்கணும்னா I should suffer. So suppose if I'm going to get a migraine headache, generally people என்ன ஆயிடும்னா, சார் எனக்கு போய் இப்படி வந்துடுதே, we try to self pity ourselves, நமக்கு தான் இப்படி வரும். See, what we need to understand is, if we are suffering, we have done something before. So this concept of me doing something before and bearing the brunt of it is karma. ஆனால் இதில் என்ன ஆயிடுறது, அப்போ இருக்கக்கூடிய மைனஸை கழிக்கணும்னு இப்போ கஷ்டப்படும் போது சில மைனஸை இப்போ பண்ணுறேன். You're getting my point? அப்போ மைனஸை கழிக்கணும்னு இப்போ கஷ்டப்படுறேன், கஷ்டப்படும் போது சில மைனஸ் பண்ணுறேன். ஸோ வாட் ஹேப்பன்ஸ் இஸ், யுவர் கர்மா அக்கௌண்ட் கீப்ஸ் பீயிங் த சேம். யூ கேன் நாட், இட்ஸ் லைக் அ கண்டினியூஸ் ப்ராசஸ். அதுலேருந்து எடுக்கிறோம். இப்போ அஞ்சரை பெட்டின்னு இருக்கு, வீட்டில் கோடவுன்லேருந்து போய் கொஞ்சம் கடுகு எடுத்துன்னு வந்து அஞ்சரை பெட்டியில் போடுறோம். இதில் ஆனோம்னா மறுபடியும் அங்கேருந்து போய் எடுப்போம், அங்கே ஆயிடுத்துனா கடையிலேருந்து போய் வாங்கிட்டு வருவோம். அல்டிமேட்லி த குவான்டிட்டி ரிமைன்ஸ் த சேம். That is when we need to understand what unconditional self-surrender is. The topic for the day is unconditional self-surrender. கிருஷ்ணர் என்ன சொல்றார், அர்ஜுனா நீ படுற கஷ்டமெல்லாம் நீ ஏதோ பண்ணியிருக்கிறதுனால தான். Submit yourself unto me. I will assure you that I will redeem you. So this unconditional self-surrender. See, whenever we take a policy, we don't take it out of philosophy. We take it because for a monetary benefit. இது கொடுக்கறதுனால தான். But the point remains is, you need to believe in that policy. Believing in that policy is an integral part. That belief is unconditional surrender. That unconditional surrender may help reduce your karma. That is one of the ways. Technically, தமிழில் வார்த்தை எடுத்தால் சரணாகதின்னு பேர். வீட்டிலேயே சொல்வா, ஏதாவது காரியம் நடக்க அவன்கிட்ட நீ பேசவே பேசாத, சரணாகதி பண்ணிவிடும் அப்படின்னா, you don't question him, you believe in him, he'll take care of you. So this unconditional self-surrender is what helps reducing to some extent karma. But remember, only by suffering we can wash away our karma. There may be articles, வெள்ளிக்கிழமை தோறும் இந்த விளக்கை நீங்கள் கிழக்கு பக்கமாக ஏத்துங்கள், இதெல்லாம் மண்ணாலாம் கர்மா குறையணுங்கிறது இல்லை, நம்ம கஷ்டப்பட்டாதான் கர்மா குறையும். So the best way is to not try avoiding as much as possible harming others. That's very, very important.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
We are listening since last 1.5 hours. We feel that we are learning something from Arya Chanakya, okay? You have proved that old is gold. You just narrate that how we can match the old things to new science for the current culture and how to improve our profession, please.
See, old concepts when being narrated in the old fashion may not make any connection. இப்போ பழைய காலத்தில் நடந்த விஷயத்தை நான் பழங்காலம் மாதிரியே சொன்னேன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, you can never relate to it. So what happens is, you recreate the past with the present. Recreating the past with the present na, பழைய காலத்தில் நடந்த விஷயத்தை இப்போ நடக்கக்கூடிய விஷயத்தோட we should parallelly run it. For example, இப்போ ஒரு கதை சொல்றார் ஒருத்தர், கௌரவர்கள் திருதராஷ்டனுக்கு பிறந்த புத்திரர்கள் அன்று அந்த ராஜ்யத்துக்காக போராடினார்கள். ராஜ்யம்னா நமக்கு என்னன்னு தெரியாது, ஏன்னா நமக்கெல்லாம் ராஜ்யமே இல்லை இல்லையா? Do we own a province? We don't own a province, we just own a house, that's all. So all these descriptions itself is alien to us. அப்போ என்ன பண்ணணும், இப்போ ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, திரௌபதியினிடத்தில் சைரந்திரிகா ஸ்திரீ சென்று தான் அலங்கரித்தாள். சைரந்திரிகான்னா என்ன? இப்போ சைரந்திரிகா அப்படின்னா நமக்கு பல தாட்ஸ் வருது. இது என்ன தெரியுமா, நான் கதை சொல்லும்போது சொல்லுவேன், சைரந்திரிகானா ஹேர் ட்ரெஸ்ஸர்னு அர்த்தம். ஸோ டுடே ஆல்சோ வி ஹேவ் த கான்செப்ட், ரிசெப்ஷனுக்கு முன்னாடி they'll call me for lectures in the marriages. நான் போயிடுவேன், யாருக்குன்னா அந்த பிள்ளைக்கும் கல்யாணம் நடக்க போகிற பெண்ணுக்கும் இந்த லெக்சர் கொடுக்கணும். பட் அல்டிமேட்லி they won't be there. 50 வருஷமாக கல்யாணம் ஆகி யாரும் உட்காந்துருக்காளோ அவள்லாம் உட்காந்துருப்பா, ஒரு 80 வயசில் உட்காந்து கேட்டுருப்பா கல்யாணம் என்றால் என்ன. இப்போ அவர் கேட்டு பிரயோஜனமே இல்லை, அவர் உட்காந்துருப்பார். பெண்ணு பிள்ளை எங்கே அப்படின்னு கேட்டால், இல்லை சிகை அலங்காரத்துக்காக போயிருக்கா, ஹேர் ட்ரெஸ்ஸிங்காக போயிருக்கா. அப்போ தான் தோணும் திரௌபதியில் அந்த காலத்தில் ஹேர் ட்ரெஸ்ஸிங் பண்ணியிருக்கா, இதுவும் நேச்சுரலாக இந்த காலத்தில் இருக்குது அப்படின்னு யோசிச்சு பார்த்தா அந்த ஆணும் பெண்ணும் வருவா. முன்னாடியே தேவையில்லாமல் இருந்த மாதிரியும் தோணும் இல்லையா, இந்த சிகை அலங்காரத்துக்கு முன்னாடியே நன்னா இருந்த மாதிரி தோணும், ஆனால் வந்துருவா. எதுக்கு நான் சொல்ல வரேன், இந்த சைரந்திரிகா ஸ்திரீங்கிற வார்த்தையே புராணத்தில் சொல்லும்போது ரொம்ப பழசாக இருக்கும். இதே நம்ம மாடர்ன் ஏஜுக்கு கனெக்ட் பண்ணும்போது இப்போ என்ன அனுபவிக்கிறோமோ அதுக்கு கனெக்ட் பற்றி சொன்னாதான் old can remain relevant. See, if I have to admire my grandmother can be a good lady. But today she WhatsApps me. She tells, "Hi, how was your trip to Cochin?" She's like 78 years old, but she asks. That's when I feel connected to my grandmother, because my grandmother is trying to be with me. So this old, which is gold, can apply in the current modern context if it is made relevant. Making relevance is very important to retain that old. பழைய விஷயங்கள் இப்பவும் பயன்படுத்தணும்னா இப்போத்தைய தலைமுறை புரிஞ்சுக்கிற மாதிரி சொன்னாதான் அது புரியும். See, if I see experienced people here, so my lecture is like this. I have been called even to kindergarten, first standard ல 5th standard வரைக்கும் நான் போனோம் லெக்சருக்கு. ஸ்கூலுக்கு போகிறேன்னு வச்சுக்கோ, ஃபஸ்ட் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸை உட்காத்தி வைக்கிறதே ஒரு பெரிய கஷ்டம். ஐயோ அது இங்கே ஓடும் அங்கே ஓடும். ஸோ தட் டைம் ஐ நீட் டு சேஞ்ச் மை டெனர். அப்படியே என் டோனை மாற்றிண்டு கதையை மாற்றிண்டு இந்த மாதிரி நான் வந்து கர்மண்யேவாதி காரஸ்தேனா அது ஒன்றுமே புரியாது, ஏதோ வளர்றன்னு போயிடும். ஸோ ஐ ஹவ் டு சேஞ்ச். இதே ஒரு 5th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் குழந்தைக்கு சொல்லும்போது நான் ஒரு வரி சொல்லியிருப்பேன், அதில் 10 ஏன்னு கேட்டுரும். அர்ஜுனன் என்பவன், சார் ஏன் இது கதையே சொல்லலை அதுக்குள்ளே ஏன்னு கேட்குறியே, அதுக்கு கேள்வி இவ்வளவு இருக்குது. ஸோ ஐ ஷுட் கேட்டர் டு தட். So making relevance and catering to that specific audience will make old thoughts relevant. That's very important. We have to be flexible. Any community, any religion, any philosophy has to be very flexible. அப்பதான் இந்த தலைமுறை வரக்கூடிய தலைமுறையை நம்மளால அட்ரஸ் பண்ண முடியும். Thank you.
Hello. Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please define that. Saying is easy, doing is hard.
Correct.
It is compared with Krishna, Arjuna.
See, saying is tough, saying is easy, doing is hard ங்கிறது is being told for a very long time. But also what we need to understand is we as a country have been very, very different. Englishல there's a saying, practice what you preach. Practice what you preach. இந்த practice preach னு 2 வார்த்தை இந்த வரியில வருது. எது முன்னாடி எது பின்னாடி? practice preachல எது முன்னாடி? practice. அப்புறம் preach. சரி, இப்போ practice what you preach நன்னா கவனிங்க. practice what you preachல you are saying that practice is first and preach is second. Eat what you cook எது ஃபர்ஸ்ட்? குக்கு தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட், அப்புறம் தான் ஈட். ஸோ ஈட் வாட் யூ குக்ல குக் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து தானே. ப்ராக்டிஸ் வாட் யூ ப்ரீச்லையும் ஆர்டரில் ப்ரீச் அண்ட் தென் ப்ராக்டிஸ். திஸ் இஸ் த சேயிங் தட் த வேர்ல்ட் ஹஸ் டாட் அஸ். நீ முதல்ல ப்ரீச் பண்ணு, ஞானத்தை சொல்லு, அப்புறம் அதை செயல்முறையில் கொண்டு வா, ஆக்ஷனில் கொண்டு வா. இதுதான் ஜென்ரல் ரூல். பட் இந்தியன் philosophy doesn't believe in that. It says preach what you practice. Practice first இருக்கணும், அப்புறம் தான் preach. That's very important. For example, he mentioned about Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna says so many things, do this, do that, do your work, be very obedient to your parents, so on and so forth. This is preaching. But before he could preach, he practiced it as Rama. So practicing which comes in Rama comes first, next comes preaching. So as a country, we are opposed to the thought of practice what you preach. We believe in preach what you practice. First you practice, then you preach. முதல்ல நீ பண்ணு, அப்புறம் எனக்கு உபதேசம் பண்ணு. உபதேசம் பண்ணிட்டு நான் பண்றேன்னு சொன்னா எப்படி? So that's wrong. So the question that you've asked is it easy or is it tough? My very thought is, as a country we have believed in doing first and then preaching. Rama did and Krishna preached. So it's very important that we practice and then we preach. Preaching is very easy, but you have to practice. Any other questions?
Sir, you mentioned that Krishna said 3 things to be considered in learning. One is about yourself.
Yeah.
One is about your work.
Yeah.
These two things are elaborately discussed.
Yeah.
The third point, I am not clear about your destination. Can you please highlight a little?
Destination is called upayam in Sanskrit. The technical word is upayam. Upayam is means and destination is upayam. We need to understand the concept of why Bhagavad Gita came into picture. See, all these days, the sons of Dhritarashtra were cheating on Pandavas. They put him into wax palace, Yerikanamnu Pata, Draupadi Avamanapadithina, so many other things. At that point in time, Arjuna stood up and he said, Kanna, naan poriduven, ivargalai jeipen. Pala dialogue lan sollittan. சொல்லி எல்லா யுத்தத்துக்கு எல்லாம் தயாராகி யுத்தத்துக்கு வரும்போது எல்லாரும் 1 2 3 ஸ்டார்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது அர்ஜுனன் சொல்கிறான், எதிர்க்க இருக்குது சித்தப்பா பெரியப்பா அத்தான் மாமா எல்லாரும் இருக்கா. கிருஷ்ணர் கேட்டார், ஏண்டா இவ்வளவு நாளாக சண்டை போடுவேன்னு சொன்னேன், அப்பவும் இவர் உனக்கு சித்தப்பா தான் உனக்கு மாமா தான், இப்போ தான் உனக்கு ஞாபகத்துக்கு வரணுமா அப்படின்னு கேட்டு பகவத்கீதையை உபதேசம் பண்ணுறார். த கான்செப்ட் ஆஃப் பகவத்கீதா இஸ் நாட் டு டெல் யூ ஹாவ் டு பார்ட்டிசிபேட் இன் அ வார், நீ சண்டை போட்டு தான் சொத்தை வாங்கணும், அது இல்லை. இஃப் யூ லெட் இட் போனா போகிறதேன்னு விட்டுட்டியான ஒரு திரௌபதி, ஒரு பெண்மணி, such a rich lady of the daughter-in-law of the first family of ஹஸ்தினாபுரத்தை எல்லாருக்கு நடுவிலையும் அவமானப்படுத்தினா. இவனை நீ போனா போறதேன்னு ராஜாவாக்க விட்டா மற்ற பெண்களின் நிலை என்னன்னு யோசிச்சுப்பார். ஸோ யுவர் டெஸ்டினேஷன் ஷுட் பி தட் யூ வில் நாட் லெட் த அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் கோ டு த ராங் ஹேண்ட்ஸ். ஸோ திஸ் டெஸ்டினேஷன் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் and the means to the destination is the war. That is why Arjuna, I am telling you fight. I am not telling you fight because I love to see blood. It is not that. But if you just let them போனா போறதேன்னு விட்டு கொடுத்தியான, இவன் நினைச்சுப்பான் ஒரு பெண்ணியே நான் அவமானப்படுத்தினேனே எல்லாரையும் அவமானப்படுத்தலாம் நினைச்சுப்பான். So if a lady is being humiliated, that society will become ruined. So don't let that happen. So your destination, likewise, in each and everyone's life, mutually exclusive. For some it is an intersection, for some it is the same. In whichever case be it, we need to recognize what we want ourselves to be recognized as. நம்மளை யாருன்னு எல்லாரும் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். Is it a person who is very good at the profession, or he is a very good professional? Above that, he is a very good human being. அப்படிங்கிற ஐடென்டிட்டி வேணுமான்னு பார்த்துக்கணும். This becomes our destination. In whichever profession we are, that good human being tag should be associated with us. சார் எல்லாம் நல்லது தான் சார், கொஞ்சம் அவர் அப்படி கொஞ்சம் அவர்னு இழுத்தாலே ஏதோ தப்பு இருக்குன்னு அர்த்தம். அந்த அவர்னு இழுக்கிற நிலைமையில நம்மளை கொண்டு நிறுத்திக்க கூடாது. That should be our destination. So these are the three parts that Krishna has discussed.
Hi, I am Prabharan from Karur branch. Worshipping regularly our ancestor is good for our progress and growth.
See, worshipping our ancestors are of various types. இப்போ பல வீடுகளில் திதின்னு பண்ணுவா, ஸ்ராத்தம் போனவாளை நினைக்கிறது. That's one way. That should be done. Certain houses, they'll keep a huge photo of that person, portrait of a person, and hang a huge garland from Pondi Bazaar and will show their that's another way. But the best part is if that ancestor of ours has said something good, applying it in our life is the biggest way that you can worship that person. இப்போ எங்கள் பாட்டி ஒரு வார்த்தை சொல்வா, யார் வீட்டுக்கு வந்தாலும் வந்த உடனே சாப்பிட்றியான்னு கேளு. Whether they would have had their lunch and come, do not wait for that person to say, do you have something? Ask. So if I have to make my party, my grandmother live today, I don't have to hang a huge 6 feet by 4 feet portrait of hers. But the best way is when somebody comes to my house and I ask them, do you want to have food? Can I make something for you? There my grandmother will live. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, ராமருக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்த ராஜாக்களில் ஷிபி சக்கரவர்த்தின்னு ஒரு ராஜா இருந்தார். அவர் ஒரு பெரிய மகான். ஒரு கழுகு ஒரு புறாவை துரத்தின்னு வருது. And this pura comes and surrenders at the feet of Shibi Chakravarti and tells, என்ன சாப்பிட வருது, என்ன எப்படியாவது ரக்ஷியுங்கோள் Shibi Chakravarti. So Shibi Chakravarti talks to that கழுகு. He tells, what you need is flesh. அவ்வளோதானே. It doesn't matter whether it's pigeon's flesh or my flesh. தொடையிலேருந்து கட் பண்ணி ஃப்ளெஷ்ஷை கொடுக்குறார். Now the Pura is actually some demigod, Indran. அது சொல்கிறது நீ உன்னை டெஸ்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்காக வந்தோம், பாரு நீ என்னை ரட்சிக்கணுங்கிறதுக்காக உன்னுடைய சதையையே அறுத்து கொடுத்துருக்க, சிபி சக்கரவர்த்தி நீ பெரிய மகானா இருப்ப, உன்னுடைய பெருந்தன்மைக்காக நீ பல வருடங்கள் மனிதர்களின் மனதிலும் நினைவிலும் வாழ்வாய் அப்படின்னு ஒரு வரம் கொடுக்குறார். இது பல வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி நடந்துடுது. இப்போ என்னாருது, காட்டில் திருப்புல்லானின்னு ஒரு இடம், நீங்கள் தமிழகத்தில் ராமநாதபுரமில் ராமேஸ்வரம் பக்கத்தில் திருப்புல்லானின்னு ஒரு இடம். அங்கே ராமர் குரங்கோடு 70,000 குரங்கோடு இருக்கார். அவர் எப்படி சமாளிச்சாருங்கிறது ஒரு பெரிய கேள்வி. 70,000 குரங்கோடு இருக்கார். அப்போது சுக்ரீவன் இருக்கான், ஹிஸ் கோயிலேஷன் பார்ட்னர். அப்போ தான் லங்காலேருந்து ராவணனுடைய தம்பி விபீஷணன் வரான். விபீஷணன் சொல்கிறான், ஐ வாண்ட் டு ஜாயின் யுவர் பார்ட்டி, ஏன்னா என் பார்ட்டியில் எல்லாம் தப்பு தப்பாக நடக்கிறது, ஐ டோன்ட் வாண்ட் டு பிலாங் டு தட் பார்ட்டி, ஐ வாண்ட் டு ஜாயின் யூ. ஸோ சுக்ரீவா டெல்ஸ், வெயிட், we have a standard recruitment process, I will go ask my partner. So he goes and asks Rama. ராமர் கேட்குறார், ராவணனுடைய தம்பி வந்திருக்கான் ராமா, அண்ணனை ஏமாத்திட்டு தம்பி வந்திருக்கான், எவ்வளோ கொழுப்பு. ராமர் ஏற இறங்க பார்த்தார் சுக்ரீவனை. இவன் வாலியை விட்டுட்டு வரும்போது இவனுக்கு தெரியல, the pot is calling the kettle black அப்படின்பா. இவன் பண்ண தப்பு தெரியல. ஆனால் ராமர் சொல்கிறார், சரிப்பா நீ சொல்லு, when you are in a coalition you'll have to listen to the other partner however illogical he is. So he tells சுக்ரீவா நீ பேசு. சுக்ரீவன் பேசுகிறான். பேசி முடிச்சோடனே ராமர் சொல்கிறார், இதை பாரு, என் மூதாதையர்களில் சிபி சக்கரவர்த்தின்னு ஒரு ராஜா இருந்தான், அவன் உயிரை துறந்திருந்தாலும் அவன் பேரோட இன்னி வரைக்கும் உயிரோட வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கான். ஹிஸ் பாடி மைட் ஹவ் பீன் பெரீடு பட் ஹிஸ் நேம் ஹஸ் நாட் பீன் பெரீட். அவருடைய பேர் இன்றளவும் உயிரோடு இருக்கின்றது. ஒரு புறாவுக்காக தன் காலின் செதையை வெட்டி கொடுத்த ராஜா சிபி சக்கரவர்த்தி, பெரும் வள்ளல் என்ற பெயர். ஆனால் இன்னைக்கு ஒருவன் விபீஷணன்கிற பேரு, என்னை காப்பாத்துறாமான்னு என் காலில் விழறான், அவனை நான் ஏற்றுக்காம விட்டுட்டா சிபி சக்கரவர்த்தி இன்று இறப்பான். He will die today. அதனால the best way of worshipping our ancestors is to try inculcating the good thoughts that they had for us and appreciating it.
Hello sir.
Hello, my name is Valerian. I am from Mangalore. My question is how to face the negative people and win the negativity in our profession.
There's one beautiful line by Vedanta Deshika 750 years before. இவனை கண்டால் சர்ப்பத்தை கண்டுமா போலே ஓடுவோம் என்னில். Since you're from Bangalore, I need to translate it. See, the thing is, there are certain people who give a lot of positive vibrations around us. Hey, variya polam, kattukalam. You feel so good when certain people are around. Some people will end up always criticizing. See, there is a difference in English between criticizing and critiquing. இந்த ரெண்டு வார்த்தை தெரிஞ்சுக்குங்க. Criticizing, critiquing. Critiquingனா critic. இப்போ நம்ம critic, film critic, கச்சேரி critic, சுபுடுன்னு இருந்தார் அந்த காலத்தில், கச்சேரி critic, film critic, இவெல்லாம் critics. Critics are people who critique. கிரிட்டிக்னா என்ன பண்ணணும்னா, இந்த படம் பார்த்தோம், இதில் தனுஷ் நன்றாக நடித்தார், ஆனால் பாடல்கள் சிலது இப்படி இருந்திருக்கலாம், ஸோ நல்லதையும் சொல்லுவார், சுமாராக இருக்கிறதையும் சொல்லுவார். இது கிரிட்டிக்கிங். கிரிட்டிசைசிங்னா, இப்போ வீட்டில் ஏதோ ஒரு சமையல் பண்ணி போடுறா, உப்பே இல்லை, மட்டமாக இருக்குது, நன்னாவே இல்லை. திஸ் இஸ் கிரிட்டிசைசிங் வேர் யூ கான்ட் see anything positive. So such people may not be good for us in our life, but the best way is you'll have to be very courteous. See, managementla adu onnu எப்பேர்ப்பட்டவனா இருந்தாலும் you'll have to be very courteous. So the best way to avoid that person is to always be away from that person. அவர் வந்துட்டார்னா ஏதோ ஒரு, இப்போ ஃபோன் ஒரு சாக்கு இருக்குது, ஒருத்தர் பிடிக்கலன்னு வச்சுங்க, ஃபோன், ஹலோ ஐம் ஜஸ்ட் கெட்டிங் அ கால், கேன் ஐ கெட் பேக் டு யூ, ஓகே பாய். ஸோ வேரியஸ் வேஸ் டு அவாய்ட் தட் பர்சன் instead of hurting that person, because if you, the moment you hurt that person, you become him. குழவியை கொட்டி 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 புழுவை கொட்டி 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 புழு குழவி ஆயிடும்னு பிரமரகீட்டா நியாயம்னு பேர் அந்த காலத்தில். a worm can be turned into a குழவி by just hitting on it. அவரோட பழகி பழகி நம்மளும் அவர் ஆயிடுவோம். So the best way is to always stay away from such people and negative thoughts. So your question was, how do we avoid? The best way to avoid negative people is to avoid them. Is to just avoid them, but at the same time not being very bad mouthing about them. ரொம்ப தப்பு. See, இந்த தப்பு தப்பு சொல்கிறதுங்கிறது கொஞ்சம் நம்ம நிறுத்திண்டா நல்லா இருக்கும். யூ டோன்ட் லைக் தட் பர்சன், டோன்ட் ஸ்பீக் அபவுட் தட் பர்சன். த மூமெண்ட் யூ ஸ்பீக் பேட் திங்ஸ் அபவுட் தட் பர்சன், யூ ஸ்டார்ட் பிகமிங் தட் பர்சன். தட்ஸ் வெரி.
Sir, my question to you is, my name is Pushpalata, I am from Bangalore. There is Ramayana and there is Mahabharata, the two great epics that we generally read. Ramayana, what they say is belonging to an era where everything was ethical, where everything, nowadays it's not so relevant, they say, because all the things were followed in that. Whereas Mahabharata is what is relevant now to this society.
Trans creation na நான் ஆட் பண்ணக்கூடிய கொஞ்சம் மசாலா எலிமெண்ட் இருக்கும். So if you want to get the closest version in English, then you can read Rajaji's Mahabharata, which to a large extent is very authentic. Kamala Subramaniam's Ramayana is to a large extent authentic. M.K. Dutt's version is authentic. If you read about transcreations, there is this book called The Palace of Illusions that talks about Draupadi's point of view. Yeah, it's to some extent a transcreation, some masala elements, but still good. Devdutt Patnaik has come up with a book called Jaya, so that's also got some transcreation. That's also pretty decent. So transcreations are good, but translation, closest to the translation is Rajaji's Mahabharata, which is to a large extent authentic.
Excuse me, he has to catch his flight. My question, maybe last two question. Sahadeva is highly knowledgeable person, man of ethics, and he had the knowledge of astronomy, astrology, everything. Compared to him, Arjuna, as far as my knowledge goes, not so much. But why Krishna liked Arjuna, but he has not liked Sahadeva or others as much as he liked Arjuna? Is it because he has married his sister or some other thing? Number one. Second question, you can answer one by two. You have studied in Pilani. I was listening on several occasions in TVs. Today, I was able to understand the depth of knowledge you have in everything. My question is, have you ever regret that instead of coming to this, if you had gone for technology as an entrepreneur, you would have made billions of rupees, maybe you would have become another Microsoft Bill Gates. Have you ever regret once?
Thank you, sir. Just this being my concluding statements, first of all, thanks. And the last question has come from the first person of the conference. So, thanks. To quickly answer the two questions which sir has posed. The first being of the Pandavas, though all of them were very close and nice people to a large extent, why did Krishna choose Arjuna over Sahadeva? Sahadeva had many credentials to him being a very talented person, a very skillful person. What we need to understand is, when you're born a human, kadavule manidanaga pirandal kuda, prejudice exists. What is prejudice? Likes or dislikes for no reason. இப்போ 2 பேர் இருக்கா எனக்கு ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸு, டே உனக்கு யாரடா பிடிக்கும், இவனை பிடிக்கும், ஏன் அவனை பிடிக்காது, இவனை அது தெரிலடா இவனை பிடிக்கும். ஸோ யூ டோன்ட் ஹாவ் அ ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் ரீசன் ஃபார் லைக்கிங் ஆர் டிஸ்லைக்கிங். தட் இஸ் கால்ட் prejudice. Krishna did not dislike other Pandavas, but he liked Arjuna better than others. Why? The reason is, Sahadeva was a very knowledgeable person, astrology, அதிலெல்லாம் பெரிய ஆளாக இருந்தார். But Krishna is a different kind of an entrepreneur. See, in entrepreneurs or in seeing directors, we see various people who like to listen, others dislike. There are certain entrepreneurs who love to listen to people what he or she likes. எனக்கு பிடிச்சது அவருக்கு பிடிக்கும். This is one. அவருக்கு பிடிக்கல, ஆனாலும் எனக்கு அவர் பிடிக்கும், ஏன்னா அவருக்கு பிடிக்கலைங்கிறது எனக்கு பிடிக்கும். It's like that, பார்த்தா பிடிக்காது, பார்க்க பிடிக்கும் kind of a statement. So Sahadeva was in the second category. If Krishna would tell, ஏண்டா துரியோதனனுக்கு போய் நல்ல நாளா குறிச்சு கொடுத்த, அதெல்லாம் இல்லை கிருஷ்ணா, அவன் என்கிட்ட கிளையண்ட் மாதிரி வந்தான், it is my duty to do it. So Krishna thought, if he is the recipient of Bhagavad Gita, he may do things which I may not like. But Arjuna was a person who was, that kind of an entrepreneur Krishna was. He wanted a person like Arjuna who will do what Krishna says. So, I'm not saying this kind of entrepreneurship is good. You should also have employees who disagree with what you say. But Krishna in that avataram was that kind of a character. You come my way or don't come in my way at all. It's my way or the highway. So he's that kind. So Arjuna was preferred over Sahadeva just for the reason because Arjuna was not a person who will question Krishna, and Krishna liked it. So that's one part. The second and the last portion of Sir's question was if I had been in any other profession. Yes, I was working in market research and strategy for over 6.5 years with some of the big brands, and I'm very thankful to my managers who could teach me a lot of things, and I could contribute in whatever little way I could. But the point remains, see, first of all, Sir's benevolence, he was so gracious enough in telling that neenga vandu oru vela software la irundirunda you would have become a Bill Gates. See, I honestly feel becoming one of the richest persons may be the fortune of some. But my point is, yes, I would have climbed many more ladders and earned more. That's there. But my point is, ultimately, see, I'll tell you my restrictions. I generally don't eat outside. I don't eat onion, garlic, drumstick, mushroom, radish, turnip. சாப்பிட்றதே இருக்கிறதே ஒரு 10 வெஜிடபிள், அதுலேயும் 6 எடுத்துட்டேன், 4 தான், வெளில சாப்பிட மாட்டேன். So my restrictions are so high that even if I end up earning crores and crores, I will not be able to enjoy. See, ultimately when I have to eat ஆத்துல, okay, if you can understand the Brahmin slang, it's like ஆத்துல பண்ற ஒரு சாத்தம், அது வீட்டில் பண்ணக்கூடிய ஒரு ரசத்தை சாப்பிட்றதுக்கு, it doesn't matter how many crores I earn. Of course, I could just get into a Forbes 50 list or a 25 list, but I don't want myself to be recognized as the richest person, but rather I would want myself to be associated with something that I love. I love to research, I love to speak, I love to interact, and this is where my heart lies. And after all, when I go back to sleep, I shouldn't go back to sleep with a heavy heart. If my heart is light, because it's not just your diet and medicines that makes you a good person. Even if you have a relieved mind, that is so much good for your body. And I feel this gives me relief, this gives me peace. As long as this gives me peace, I still feel I'm the richest person.